Good morning. Welcome to SimWorld today, and a happy new year as we embark on 2025. We're embarking on a new era of SimWorld today as we are pleased to welcome for the first time of his on-camera debut, Sir Air Jalen. Good morning, Jalen. How are you?
Good morning, Marsh. Happy to bring in the new year with you.
Was a successful New Year's Eve for you? Are you a stay up till midnight guy, or are you I'm going to bed because I don't feel like seeing a clock strike midnight kind of guy?
I'm always up past midnight, Marsh, and
Just
I'm
it's
looking
a
forward
daily
to
thing.
looking
You're a
forward to
ringing
what
in the new day kind of
2025
guy.
brings.
I get it. Okay. All right. Right
Uh-huh.
on. Well, ringing in the new day is going to have to be Georgia, as they're going to be ringing in a new quarterback, and that's Gunnar Stockton, as the Bulldogs are going to be without starting quarterback Carson Beck because of an elbow injury. So, Jalen, the question is, no Beck, no problem, or do you think the Bulldogs are going to be just fine with their starting quarterback on the bench?
I think that where Georgia has an advantage is that they are on the weaker side of the bracket. So if they can get past Notre Dame, who I think hasn't really been tested, I think they have a chance of getting into the national championship. Um, but I don't know how well they fare in a championship game against Oregon or Ohio State, Texas. I think that the winner of Oregon, Ohio State for me is who I have winning it.
Look, I think to say that Notre Dame has not been tested is a great disservice to the Northern Illinois Huskies, who, went into the tough confines of Catholic Central America and took down the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But to your point, I don't think this is a big deal because what you made a great point on, this isn't a tough side of the bracket. It's very easy. Oregon, to me, is the team that stands head and shoulders above the rest of the group. And truthfully, I don't know that Georgia, if they were on the other side, I'd be a lot more concerned, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because they have not looked like a dominant team in the same way that Oregon has, in the same way that I think really Ohio State has for much of the season, except for the one loss against Michigan, which obviously many people wanted Ryan Day fired after. I'm not concerned because it's just not challenging for Georgia. That being said, I still don't think they're going to be a national champion. I don't think this football team has proven especially recently, over the past month, that they are a team that can put teams away. They really struggled against Georgia Tech. They didn't look awesome against Texas, and they nearly threw that one away. They have not played exceptionally well really since like mid-October. And now you're introducing a backup quarterback who was fine. He played pretty well. Stockton did against Texas, but in the SEC championship game. But this just isn't a great Georgia team in general that's getting a really great benefit of the doubt based off the seeding and where everything lay for them.
Yeah, I agree, Marsh. I just think, like I said, they got a really good seeding. They're really good pick of the draw. I think they've been pretty average as far as Georgia standards for most of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just the amount of talent that's on the other side of the bracket is just going to be too much for them.
Well, there's a lot more talent coming to Alabama, and not necessarily on the gridiron, but on the basketball court, as the Crimson Tide have one of the best recruiting classes in college basketball, and they just got another addition to it, the number 5 ranked recruit by ESPN, Almighty Soul, joining Kai Killens, who comes in at number 9, and coming in at number 10, Leonardo Fields. So 3 top 10 recruits heading to Alabama for the Crimson Tide. Is this the team to beat starting next season in college basketball?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a team that's already 15-1 with what they have. And they've essentially locked up the number 1 recruiting class for next season, and they still have 2 more spots to fill. So, I think they'll. If I'm a guard and I see all these bigs coming in, and they already have bigs, Alabama is where I'd be wanting to go. They already have a great team. They have great big men, elite big men coming in. I can't think of a better situation for a point guard. I think where it gets interesting here is where
Go ahead.
I think where it gets interesting here is what do we do with the bigs over there? Because you have Levin Cutler still there. You're bringing in Leonardo Fields. You're bringing in Almighty Soul. In my opinion, you can only play 2 of those guys at a time, and I think that Cutler probably ends up being the odd man out there. I think Fields is elite rim protector, elite rim runner, lob threat. Soul is the one of the best scorers in the country. He's an elite scorer, and I don't see where Cutler is elite at anything on either side of the ball. He's a very, very good player, but we're talking about special players coming in with elite attributes.
Yeah, I mean, Levin Cutler, he's a 40% shooter, although that is very misleading because he's made just 2 of them on the season. So unless he becomes a guy that can stretch the floor, I think you're right. I actually have a bigger question: is does DJ Child stay? He's currently projected to be a second-round pick. He's a junior. He's got 1 more year of eligibility. This season's been plagued by ankle injuries. He's played decently well, but he's sitting there shooting just 36%, and he's a guy that could probably benefit from another year of development rather than being slashed in as a second-round pick in the SWBA draft coming up this summer. So while it's a great class, I think there's really an opportunity for Alabama, if they wanted to say, what if we keep DJ Childs at the point? And he's been really good, 4.2 assists per game. He's transitioned from a guy that was primarily an on-ball creator for himself and a high-level scorer. He's now a guy that gets other people involved, gets into the paint, he draws a lot of fouls. He's not shot the ball well from the free throw line, just 52%. But you put him and allow him to operate the offense next to Kai Killens, who can get his own, next to Almighty Soul, next to Leonardo Fields. You can keep starting Aiden Weaver, who's been a great three-point threat for them. You've got Rodrigo Falls, who's still got another year of eligibility. So I think this Alabama team, if they were to keep DJ Childs, which I really don't think Jalen is a bad decision for him, becomes even better than what they are right now.
Yeah, I think that's just going to be up to him and DJ and what he wants to do. As far as from like a development standpoint, I don't think he has a whole lot to prove coming back. But having an ankle injury this year, I think a lot of it's going to depend on how they finish the season. If they finish it on top, he might just go ahead and go. If he feels like, if they get close and he feels like, he wants to make that push and maybe move his draft stock up, back into the first round, then I think that would be a good decision for him as well.
If you see he's got nothing to prove, though, I mean, he's shooting 27% from deep, 36% from the floor, 52% from the free throw line. I mean, if there's something to prove, it's that he's got to figure out how to be a jump shooter again, because for an ankle injury, it's completely ruined. I don't know if it's the ankle injury or not, but it has completely ruined his jumper this season. So I would argue, if you're going to be a junior, you got a year of eligibility, there's no point in going to the draft just to sit in the second round, be a G leaguer, sit around, dwell on the bottom of a rotation. Maybe you have a good summer league and crack somebody's rotation, but second round pick is not one that often, to me, would exude a high-level talent at the next level. Speaking of the next level, let's go on. The draft board and the top, the top 100, or however you want to call it, the big board, if you will, has really kind of shifted around a lot this season, and some fresh faces have made their way to the top of it, or at least near the top of it. Lamarian Sherwood, not necessarily somebody who was on a lot of radars this season. Donta Walker, certainly. So, Jalen, the question: who among this year's draft-eligible craft and class have really outplayed the expectations and jumped their way up the draft board in ways? Maybe it's just a couple spots from 5 to 2 if it's Jamison Johnson, but who has been the most impressive of the draft-eligible players this season?
I think this one has to be Lamarian Sherwood. And it's really a no-brainer if you ask me. Averaging 27 and 11, leading the country in both scoring and rebounding. The Hawkeyes are sitting at 7-2, ranked number 7. He'd probably be the number 1 pick in the draft. And I don't think anybody had him that even close to being that high coming into the season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he wasn't getting any type of hype like this. So I think as far as the most outplayed their expectations, I'm going to have to go with Sherwood.
Sherwood's been good, and I said it on the podcast earlier this week. Great, that's fair. Great, yes. Leading the nation in points, leading the nation in rebounds, as I said. He looks like a 25-year-old. I said that on the pod. He looks like he's, well into his SWBA career and not, he's a junior, he's a sophomore. He's 22 years old, so he looks 3 years older than he is right now. To me, though, the guy that's most exceeded expectations is Donta Walker with Georgia Tech. This was not a team in the ACC that was expected to be anything. This was a team that was expected to probably dwindle near the middle, probably shade to the bottom. But out of nowhere, Donta Walker has become this lifeblood of the organization and the program. He has jolted them into contention. He's the top 5 team that nobody expected. They are fringe. They're not not fringe, but they're in the middle of the ACC title conversation. It's not Duke and everybody else. It's Duke, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech trying to hang on to the coattails with Newly Cox leading the way. But to me, it's Donta Walker. He's currently number 13. If I'm sitting in the lottery, if I'm a Washington, if I'm a Charlotte, if I'm a Detroit, and I'm sitting there with a chance to take somebody at the top of the draft, Detroit might win themselves out of that range, but I'm going after Donta Walker because he's a difference-making forward who I think can play the 4. He's got a game similar to Giannis Antetokounmpo, downhill threat. To me, I think that's been the biggest surprise because he went from nothing to something real. Sherwood, I'm not denying your point, Jalen. Sherwood's been incredible, but he's made that jump from like top 5 to bona fide number 1 as opposed to Walker, who was off draft boards completely, and now he's pretty much a lottery lock.
Yep. I'm not mad at that, Marsh. I mean, a guy that's, he's elevated his team, obviously sitting at 13-2. Nobody had Georgia Tech there. And, I'm always a fan of, guys that could put the ball in the basket. He's averaging 21 points per game. Like you said, it came out of nowhere. So, I mean, that's a great pick.
All right, plenty of games in action last night on New Year's Eve. So let's run the tape and do our SimWorld U wrap-up from the last day of 2024. We'll start in UCLA. This was meant to be a game in Xavier, but some scheduling conflicts for the Musketeers moved it to the UCLA Bruins home court. I don't think anybody's missing a trip to LA on New Year's rather than being stuck in Cincinnati. Although UCLA takes care of business, 77-63. Lake Gerald Carroll leads the way with 15. Jalen Snow adds 14 and a double-double from Franklin Tyson in the victory for the Bruins. Head to Richmond, where Washington State goes on the road trying to get back their top 25 ranking with a 74-57 win against the Spiders. That's Javante Roussel leading the way, 18.7 boards. A big night, though on a little bit of low efficiency there. Ohio State taken down at number 24 ranked Florida Gators 72-71 thanks to Cody Johnson's double-double and Bo Pagnotti Jr.'s 14 points and 6 assists. There's one of them in a fantastic game for the Buckeyes. Big loss for Florida, who's trying to hang on to that top 25 ranking. Seems unlikely to happen, though certainly a great turnaround for the Gators after a slow start. Duke and Georgia. Cooper Flag show continues to be prime time television. 81-59 win for the Duke Blue Devils. 25 points, 6 boards, 7 assists, 70% shooting from Cooper Flag, the front runner for Player of the Year. Darian King-Cross and Royce Anderson, 17 apiece for Georgia in their outing. Virginia Tech continues to impress, this time over SEC foe Ole Miss, a 68-57 win for the Hokies. 15-9-8 for Travion Novick, and Newly Cox 14 points of his own, 7 of 12 shooting from last week's SimWorld U Player of the Week. Ole Miss is led by Buggy Faroug in the loss. Keep the train rolling. Davidson goes down to Miami and enjoys a win over the defending champions, much like pretty much everyone else in the country. Benari James, 18 points, 9 boards, 4 assists. Keontae Ducepto, 17-9-8. A massive night for Davidson, who just got their top 25 ranking back in. They win that one 80-72. New Mexico, takes on South Carolina, a new entrant into the top 25, and they take care of business, 91-80, a win for the Lobos at home. Damari Gay paces New Mexico, a 40-minute night, 25 points, 4 boards, and 6 assists in the win. A quiet night for South Carolina's Keandre Baldridge, just 12 points on 4 of 10 shooting. Head back out west, where USC hosted the Temple Owls, and the Trojans did nothing but beat them up. Pair of double-doubles. This one from J-Mo, 19 and 12 rebounds, and Quintel Patterson, 12, 9 boards, and 11 assists. St. Mary's, they say, hey, we should be a top 25 team. Tennessee says we don't believe so. 95-85 win for the Volunteers. 33 points from Trey Turner. TJ Rockwell with 13. Another quiet night from Henrik Bekic, though. 7 points on 3 of 10 shooting. Dime Hardaway, 21 to lead the Gales in that one. Hey, we talked about Donta Walker. He got rolling in a Georgia Tech win, but it was Miguel Person who kept the thing going for Georgia Tech in a win. 66-58 on the road in Las Vegas. Another great place to spend your New Year's Eve. Miguel Pearson, 19 and 10. Donta Walker, good first half, slow second half. Ended up 5 of 15 on the night. But number 4, Georgia Tech keeps their winning ways going. They'll stay in the top 10 as we move along. That is our show. We've got so much coming for you here in the new year. A happy new year to everybody. We've got a noon broadcast, UNLV going to Villanova. We've got an 8 p.m. broadcast, Virginia and Houston, and then a 9:30 Xavier, San Diego State. Xavier staying in California for that road game against San Diego State. Jalen, it was great having you on. Glad we could finally show the man behind the screen to the SimWorld masses. So a happy new year once again to you, and a thank you for joining us, our new year guest, bringing in a new era of SimWorld. So Jalen, great to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning, just like always, here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.